After a year-long wait, we are finally back. Welcome to the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. On this episode, we're talking about off-season moves, trades, everything going on with the Mets off-season, spring training coming around right around the corner, and a very special announcement coming up at the end here on the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York Town.
Welcome back to the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. As said, yes, it has been a year. Yes, it has been a while since I've recorded a brand new podcast. You know, things happen, life happens. It is what it is. But we are finally back here on the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. On this episode, we're talking about off-season moves that the Mets have made. Probably one of the best off-seasons in recent history for the New York Mets. And we will go through every single move in about 2-3 minute breakdown about it. Some are big, some are not really big. You know, there's the minor league moves, and then there's the monster moves that the Mets have made this offseason. So let's first get into that. First move they made this offseason was Kevin Herget, a relief pitcher from the Milwaukee Brewers. He posted a 1.59 ERA with 9 strikeouts, likely going to be in the New York Mets minor league system with the Syracuse Mets in the AAA program, but could be a good relief pitcher if the Mets do need him to come up, maybe throw some innings, uh, get some time up in the majors. So it'll be interesting. But first up is a relief pitcher. Next, well, we have a lot of relief pitchers on this list, honestly. Justin Hageman signed a 1-year, $850,000 contract, posted a 4.91 ERA in AAA with the Boston Red Sox. So he was in the Worcester with the AAA team for the Red Sox. Not much really to date about him. Another relief pitcher. Hopefully get some time down in the minors. But now we head into a trade that the Mets made. Yes, a trade, believe it or not. And this is going to be Harrison Bader's replacement. Jose Siri, right fielder, acquired from Tampa Bay. You know, the cocky one from 2022 when he hit that big home. Or no, it was 2023. When he, hit that home run when the Mets had a big slump at the time. But hey, who knows? He could be something for the Mets. Didn't really do much with Tampa Bay last year. It had a .187 average. Not much doing over in Tampa Bay. We traded Eric Orsi for him in the deal. The next person that the Mets got was Rico Garcia, relief pitcher, signed a minor league deal with the team. Will probably stay in the minors as the bullpen pretty much is done. In the case of the 40-man roster, he had 20 saves and a 3.94 ERA in the AAA program with the Nationals last season. Next is Donovan Walton, a second baseman. He's also signed a minor league deal. As mentioned, just fair warning, a lot of these deals were minor league deals. So most of these players you probably will not see in the majors. They'll probably stay down in the minors. He had a 303 average, 7 home runs, 51 RBIs, 53 runs scored, and 4 stolen bases in AAA for the San Francisco Giants. So, again, another utility player probably. And then here's a familiar face. Rafael Ortega, center fielder, signed a minor league deal. As you know, that 2023 season, Rafael Ortega was on the team. He was okay. He had one big hit, which was a walk-off against the Angels, if you wouldn't believe me. But that was also a Sunday morning game on like Peacock or whatever. Anyways, he had 11 home runs and 17 stolen bases in the AAA program for the Chicago White Sox. So again, probably just another minor league, just staying down in the minors probably. Next is Hobie Harris, a relief pitcher, signed a minor league deal, posted a 6.41 ERA in AAA with the Minnesota Twins. Again, another relief pitcher move, so you can't really do much with that. And he'll probably just stay down in the minors unless we obviously need him. Next is an interesting face, which I was surprised to see. It's not much because it's also a minor league deal, but Joey Meneses, a designated hitter, as you know, he was definitely a Mets killer back in 2023, but hasn't really done much since his rookie year. So, 0.231 average, 3 home runs, 42 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases with the Washington Nationals. Again, probably will just be staying in the minors with Binghamton or Syracuse. Not really much going on there. Next is Jackson Reitz, a catcher, signed him to a minor league deal, which is funny because, we have Kevin Parada, we have Francisco Alvarez, all those guys. So, again, not much of a big deal. He had a .143 batting average, a home run, and an RBI with the San Francisco Giants when he got the chance to be with the Giants, but obviously didn't really do much with said opportunity. Next is Genesis Cabrera, a right-handed pitcher from the Toronto Blue Jays. Yes, the same Genesis Cabrera who got into a scuffle with the Tampa Bay Rays last season. So he has a little bit of fire in him. He's also a flamethrower when he has control. He signed a minor league deal. He had a 3-3 win-loss record, 3.59 ERA, 50 strikeouts, and 29 walks with the Toronto Blue Jays. So obviously not that big of a season, but this could be a sneaky pickup for the Mets, especially if they need help in the left-handed pitching department in the bullpen. And then we have a starting pitching rotation move that the Mets made. Frankie Montas, a right-handed pitcher from the Milwaukee Brewers, signed a 2-year, $34 million deal, 7-11 win-loss record, 4.80 ERA, 151 strikeouts, 67 walks with the Milwaukee Brewers. I saw this. When I saw the move, I was like, okay, this could be something because, the Mets need as much help as they can get with the rotation. And it was a good deal to get Montas. I think he'll be a good 4 to 5 spot starter with the rotation the Mets have. And hopefully, the pitching lab helped Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, and, those guys with, their craft and getting better at what they're doing. So who knows? Maybe he'll be an underdog pitcher for said New York Mets. Another minor league deal, Oliver Ortega, a relief pitcher. He was sidelined from all of 2024 with an elbow injury with the Los Angeles Angels, so not much on him. And then another big move with the starting rotation, Clay Holmes. That's right, Clay Holmes, a relief pitcher from the New York Yankees. We all saw him last season. He had a rough go of it, especially in the bullpen side. He looked mortal, believe it or not. 13 blown saves as a closer. He was also demoted from the closing spot to be just a relief pitcher, but he's coming in, get this, as a starting pitcher for the Mets rotation. So he'll probably be in the number 3 spot, and he recently came out saying that he wants to throw at least over 90 to 100 innings this season. It'll be interesting. I'm curious about this. I think it will hopefully help out the Mets in the long run. I hope it does. It would be great to see him succeed in the rotation, but it will also be very interesting if he doesn't work out in the rotation. You can also put him in the bullpen with a dominant bullpen staff, in my personal opinion, and put him as a setup guy for Edwin Diaz. But his stats last season, he had a 3-5 win-loss record, 3.14 ERA, 80 strikeouts, 27 walks, and 30 saves with the Yankees. So he still had a good amount of saves, even though he had a good amount of blown saves. And then the biggest move in Mets history, in my personal opinion, Juan Soto is a New York Met. He signed a 15-year, $760 million contract. What else should I say? That is one of the biggest moves in Mets history. But the thing that people need to realize quickly as I, go through these statistics with Soto, just because we got one of the best players on the market does not mean we are automatically winning the World Series. So let's just put that out there. Let's ease the brakes a little bit. Obviously, I'm a prime component. When I heard about Juan Soto signed tonight, this is going to be interesting. I personally thought I think he was going back to the Yankees. I didn't think he was going to come to the Mets. And then I saw the deal that the Yankees had, which was kind of the same thing. It was 16 years, 765. He got offered more to stay with the Yankees than he did with the Mets. He chose to play with the Mets. And I don't know what else to say. Obviously, he's going to be one of the biggest acquisitions the Mets have, but that is a very lengthy contract. And I understand that some Mets fans, when they saw this, they're like, "Oh, this is going to be another Bobby Bonilla situation." Could be. It could be. Of course, you don't want to knock out that possibility that it could be a type Bobby Bonilla deal, but the reward you get with a move like this is insane. He's still young, and he's going to be playing in Queens with Francisco Lindor. Like, that is a dynamic duo waiting to happen. So his stats, obviously, with the Yankees last season, a 288 batting average, 45 home runs, 118 RBIs, and 7 stolen bases in just 1 year. And also his first year as playing in the American League, because up to that point, he only played with the Washington Nationals, the San Diego Padres, 2 National League teams, and then he went to the Yankees. And when I saw it at first, I was like, monster move for the Yankees. The only issue is he going to be able to adjust to American League pitching? And he did. Oh boy, did he ever. It was insane to watch last season. So he will be a big, big player in Queens this 2025 season. Next is Jared Young, a first baseman. He signed a 1-year contract. And Mets fans saw this and they're like, oh no, they got a first baseman. That means, Alonso could be gone. Nah, it's just probably going to be a backup first baseman, if anything. And even if that, he probably just might be in the minors. Who knows what more are we really going to do with him? He had a 285 average, 11 home runs, 35 RBI, 6 stolen bases in AAA with the St. Louis Cardinals. And again, he'll probably just be a backup first baseman, if anything. Next is probably one of the most type moves of the season. The Mets got Griffin Canning from the Angels. He signed a 1-year, $4.25 million contract. And I saw this move and I was like, why are the Mets going after someone like Griffin Canning? So let's look at his stats first, and then you tell me why you think, this is not a good move. 6-13 win-loss record, a 5.19 ERA. Granted, he had 130 strikeouts, but he had 66 walks. And he gave up a boatload of runs. So it's obvious that I have the right to be a little concerned about this move. So he's either likely going to be in the 5th spot of this rotation, or he'll probably be in the bullpen, which I think he's more suited for the bullpen than he is a starting role, as seen last season. The next move the Mets made was Anthony Gossi, a relief pitcher, signed a minor league contract, a 10.38 ERA, 4 strikeouts, and a walk with the Cleveland Guardians in 1 start. And then there wasn't really much after that. Not much down in the minors or anything. He only had like 1 start. He's also a converted outfielder now for some apparent reason, but he's still listed as a relief pitcher. So that's, here and there, here nor there. And this is Luis Ortiz, a relief pitcher, signed a minor league contract, 27.00 ERA, and missed the rest of the 2024 season after getting Tommy John surgery. So, of course, another relief pitcher will probably stay down in the minors with Syracuse, Binghamton, and etc. So not much going on there. Next is Brandon Waddell, a relief pitcher. As said, there's going to be a lot of relief pitchers, so bear with me. Signed a minor league contract. He had an 0-2 win-loss record with a 5.68 ERA, 9 strikeouts, 11 walks with, get this, the Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, St. Louis Cardinals in 2021. He has not pitched in the majors since 2021, so I would not expect him to see him in Queens anytime soon. And then we got the tribal chief back. Sean Manaea is back in Queens. A fantastic season signing him. When we signed him last season, I was very much excited to see what he can do. That first game against Detroit, lights out. And then, he had his struggles. Every pitcher has his struggles. It is what it is. Not every pitcher can be perfect. But the turnaround he's had, that second half tear he had, was insane. And I cannot wait to see him back in a Mets uniform from 2025 and on. So it was a 3-year, $75 million contract. His stats last year, we had a 12-6 win-loss record, 3.47 ERA, 184 strikeouts, 63 walks with the Mets. Big thing with the rotation is trying to fix the walks. You don't want to keep getting guys on base and giving them free runs. Likely, Sean Manaea will probably be in the 1 or 2 spot in this rotation, and he's going to be a very viable guy in this starting rotation. The next move the Mets made was Travis Swaggerty, an outfielder, signed a minor league contract at a .111 average, a hit, and 4 walks with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So we basically only had 1 game with the Pirates. Again, minor league contract, probably just stay down in the minors. Nothing much more to talk about. Yanni Hernandez, a second baseman, signed to another minor league contract with the Mets. 241 average, 2 home runs, 32 RBIs, 35 walks, 13 stolen bases in the AAA program in the Brewers organization. Again, minor league move, probably stay down with Binghamton or Syracuse. We'll see what he's got in spring training, but don't get your hopes up. Austin Warren, a relief pitcher, he was acquired from off waivers from the San Francisco Giants. He had a 1.69 ERA, 7 strikeouts, 5 walks with the San Francisco Giants. And that's probably a short span, not really much. I think he probably only pitched 6-7 games, so not much to go off of that. Again, another guy who will probably stay in the minors. Jesse Winker, yep, the lovable psycho is back. They signed him to a 1-year, $7.5 million contract in the designated hitter spot, and I couldn't be any more excited. It is great to have his electricity and his willingness to win in that clubhouse. And he said it himself. He likes playing in Queens, and we're absolutely grateful to have him back in Queens. His stats last year, he had a 253 average, 14 home runs, 58 RBIs, and 14 walks with the Washington Nationals and New York Mets as he was picked up in the trade deadline. Most of his home runs came with the Nationals. 11 of those home runs were with the Nationals, 3 of them with the Mets. And then bolstering the bullpen. We've been talking about it all offseason. Well, I haven't been talking about it all offseason. All the other guys have. Bolster the bullpen. And they got A.J. Minter from the Atlanta Braves. A big move in my eyes. You need left-handed pitching in that bullpen. You need help in that bullpen. And they got a reliable guy. The only issue is he's coming off a hip surgery, so he hasn't pitched since getting said surgery. So we'll see what he does in spring training, but I'm very excited to see what he can do. It was a 2-year, $22 million contract. Had a 5-4 win-loss record, 2.62 ERA, 35 Ks, 11 walks with the Atlanta Braves before getting said hip surgery. He will be a fantastic, fantastic addition to the Mets bullpen. Adbert Alzolay, another relief pitcher, signed a 2-year minor league contract. Yeah, I saw a 2-year minor league contract. I haven't seen those really ever, I guess. Cubs wanted to get rid of him so bad, but now we have him, and hopefully he can develop in the minors, maybe get back up to the majors, because he was a fantastic pitcher until he really wasn't. So it is what it is. Nothing much you can do there. He had a 1-4 win-loss record, 4.67 ERA, 13 Ks, 6 walks, 4 saves with the Cubs. So next, Ryan Stanek, relief pitcher, signed a 1-year, $4 million contract. We re-signed him. So happy we re-signed him. Such an amazing pitcher. Great, reliable guy in that bullpen. He showed up in the postseason like we needed him to show up in the postseason, and it's great to have him back in the bullpen. He had a 4.88 ERA, 67 Ks, 25 walks, 7 saves with the Mariners and Mets. All 7 of those saves came with the Mariners because he's not the closer in Queens. Nick Madrigal, third baseman, signed a 1-year, $1.35 million contract. So he's likely going to be the replacement for Jose Iglesias. I have heard that they are still trying to get Jose Iglesias, but it's very unlikely. So it looks like he will be a replacement utility infielder, or they'll probably give Jeff McNeil the second base spot. 2.21 average, 10 RBIs, 4 walks, and a stolen base with the Chicago Cubs. Now, I'm going to give fair warning. I did a whole list of this, all the moves they made yesterday. And then there's one guy that I forgot to mention that we're going to mention right now. He signed last night. Finally, the saga ends. Polar Bear Pete is back in Queens as a New York Met, and I'm so excited. Finally, Pete Alonso is back with the Mets. This is a 2-year, $54 million contract, a $10 million contract bonus, a signing bonus. Thank goodness. Finally got the crap behind us. Finally was able to sit down like men and figure out a deal after this entire saga. It was just exhausting. It was ridiculous. And finally got the deal done. That's all I wanted this offseason. I wanted to get Alonso back. When we got Soto, I'm like, wow, that is a huge move. Now what are you going to do with the lineup? And I was like, get Alonso. Get me back the Polar Bear. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, we're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, Alonso is back with the Mets. I couldn't be more happier. And I hope he fires Boris in the offseason. That would be fantastic because he screws his clients. He's screwing over Alex Bregman, who apparently wants a multi-year deal that Houston's not going to give him. Oh, thank goodness. It's all I wanted. All I wanted was Alonso back. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about spring training right here on the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. Hey, Mets fans, this is the host of the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast, TJ Labby. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify. And this season, make sure to follow us on YouTube to see video recordings of said podcast. Hope to see you all during the 2025 season, and let's go Mets. Welcome back to the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. As said, we're going to the spring training portion of the show. It's right around the corner. Next week, to be exact. Pitchers and catchers report February 12th. Everyone else reports on the week of February 19th. Spring training is finally here. Baseball is finally back, and I'm so excited. Thank goodness Mets baseball is coming back. And now the expectations are a lot harder. A lot higher, I should say. They made it to the postseason last year. They made it all the way to the NLCS when everybody was counting them out. It was a punt year. They weren't supposed to make it this far. But now you got a team that can do a lot of damage on the offensive side and the defensive side. So what I'm hoping for coming this spring training is let's improve Juan Soto's defense. I want to see him taking plenty of reps in right field. I think that he's probably going to be the primary everyday right fielder instead of Starling Marte, unless they, switch out orders. Or they can't really switch out orders because Winker is the left-handed DH. So even if you do go for the righty bat in right field, then Soto can't really play anywhere. And I think Soto is probably going to play every single game this season. He's one of the biggest acquisitions the the Mets have made this season. So, but another thing I want to see in spring training is how the Mets can use that pitching lab to good use. Griffin Canning, trying to get him back on track or maybe get him to be a better pitcher than he was with the Angels. Frankie Montas, I think he has a lot of potential in the rotation, and let's see what they can do with him. Manaea's fine. I think he just needs to keep doing what he's doing, but work on the walks per nine in coming up into this season. And then spring training, everybody who got signed to a minor league deal, this is your chance to prove to be on the team. Now, being said, might happen, might not happen. Brett Baty has been down in the minors for a while, and he's been wanting to prove himself as a third baseman, but every time he usually gets the chance, he doesn't really do the best that the Mets want from him. And there's not really much that we can really do with him. Vientos is probably going to be the everyday third baseman. Alonso's back, so he's back at first. Beatty's only a third baseman. He can't play like DH or something like that. So it sucks to say, but I think Beatty's time in New York is probably coming to an end. And it sucks because I had high hopes on him. He was a big prospect, and, getting that first home run against Atlanta, you're like, oh, wow, this kid might actually be something. But he goes on a tear for just a small margin of time. And then after that, he doesn't really do much after. It's disappointing to see, unfortunately. So I don't think Beatty's really going to be with the big ball club this season. So I think he'll probably stay in the minors. And then a big part of this spring training as well is getting Kodai Senga back to 100%. We saw Kodai Senga in the postseason. He was able to pitch against the Phillies in the NLDS, which was that was insane to see, and it was great because that was the last good pitching performance he had before he got injured again after having a fantastic performance against the Braves. And it's like, oh, great, we got our ace back, and then he's injured again. It's, that sucks, the whole thing, the whole ordeal. But now we have him back. And yeah, hopefully he can be the ace we want him to be. And I think he can be the ace we want him to be. Just give him time in spring training, figure out everything that he needs to figure out. He's coming off a rough injury, and he's also coming off a very rough start against the Dodgers in the postseason, which my personal opinion, it was great to see. It was excitement for the fans to see him pitch game one of said series, but we would have been better off with not having start him in game one, especially with the way the Dodgers were that entire postseason. It was insane, and Kodai Senga couldn't really do much. He couldn't throw a strike. It was just rough seeing him die on the hill. So hopefully he, gets his reps in and hopefully gets back ready to go for the regular season. And as for everybody else, spring training, get your reps in, get your practice in, get everything ready to go with your workouts. It's this is do or die with the Mets now. We're a team that can contend in the postseason, and hopefully the Mets can contend in the postseason coming up. Personally, right now, I think we're a wild card team. I don't think we're the best team in the National League East, and I'll explain. Before everybody's like, "Oh, you're kidding me! You're not saying the Mets are going to the postseason? Look at all the moves they made. Look at all the things they've done this offseason." Hold the brakes. Look at what the Phillies did this offseason with their pitching. Re-signing Aaron Nola. They still got Zach Wheeler. Christopher Sanchez looks like he could be a stud. Jesus Lazaro, yes, Jesus Lazaro is Jesus Lazaro, but you don't know. You don't know what can happen with a change of scenery. He's been in Miami rotting away and hasn't really done much, and now he's in Philadelphia, who has a good team. And then look at what Philadelphia still has. Still got Kyle Schwarber. They still got Bryce Harper. They still got Nicholas Castellanos. They still got all those big gun hitters. Now, is it crazy of me to think that the Mets are better than the Braves? A little bit, but also my explanation there is the Braves got rid of a lot of pitching this offseason. Max Fried is gone. He went to the Yankees. AJ Minter now with the Mets, obviously. So there's a hit in their bullpen. Ronald Acuna Jr. might not even be back in time for opening day with how severe of an injury he sustained. Travis d'Arnaud is gone. That was one of their best catchers on the team. They'll probably just pivot to their other catcher, who I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I'm going to remember it later, and it's going to annoy me. Okay. But yeah, Braves don't have that much pitching other than maybe Spencer Swellenbach, who looked fantastic against the Mets, and maybe Spencer Strider. Those are the two best pitchers they have. The hitting, of course, is insane. Michael Harris, Matt Olson, Acuna if he comes back healthy, Austin Riley, all those guys. But it'll be interesting to see what Ozzy Albies as well. He's definitely someone to put into that conversation as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the NL East is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be one of the toughest divisions in the league. It's going to be just like the AL East is every single year. Now the NL East is going to be like that, and it's going to be insane. The Nationals can be a sneaky pick as well. Dylan Cruz, James Wood, all those guys. They could have an interesting team if they all develop correctly. They could be a sneaky good team. They made some moves as well. They got Josh Bell this offseason, who has played with Washington before, so he knows the landscape and everything. The Marlins are not going to be the Marlins are not going to be anything. They'll be a last place team, if anything. They're not going to do much. They've done nothing this offseason but get rid of guys left and right. So nothing to really realize about that. And also another thing with the Phillies, I completely forgot. JT Realmuto, one of the best catchers in the league. He'll be a force to be reckoned with as well. And maybe Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm has shown glimpses of being a great third baseman. So you never know. It could go to any. It's going to be between the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies. That's what I think. I don't think the Mets are going to be first. I think the Mets are at least going to be in second place. I think they make a wild card spot to make the playoffs. I don't think they win first place. I think the Phillies are going to get first place. And that's it sucks to say, but doing this, you got to have a perspective of all the other teams. You can't just be a homer and root for your own team. You got to look at all different avenues. And I think with all the things I've said and everything I stated, I think the Phillies are the better team in the NL East. So who knows? But anyways, the third thing that I said in the open, I'm going to try my hardest, and I hope I can get this done this season. I'm going to be doing a recap of Game 1 through Game 162, including the postseason if they make it, which I hope they do. Which means analysis, breakdown, the good, the bad, the ugly of every single game, pitching, defense, offense, all that, all wrapped into a shiny little bow. So we're going to get a lot more stuff with the podcast this season. Hopefully some interviews, of course, coming. I have interviews lined up. I'm planning to be on a podcast with another brilliant Mets creator by the name of Mets Batflip on his pod. Eventually, we have no date yet. We're thinking March, but we don't have a specific date yet because, he's in college and he's doing a fantastic job in Syracuse University. So kudos to him. Kudos to all he's doing. He's a fantastic guy. He's a great Mets creator. And definitely look forward to doing a podcast with him. But as for everything on here, that's it. You can put this episode in the books. I am so happy to be back. New York Mets baseball right around the corner. Let's go, Mets.